Hey all, it's Starzy and today we are doing the buy book tag. So this is a book tag that I've wanted to do since it was first created, which was quite a while ago now, I feel. It was created by Books with Leah. I will link their original video down below. And apparently today is the day we're doing it. I also just adopted Grogu today, so he's joining us. So as you may be able to guess, this tag, all the prompts are to do with bisexuality, so that's what we're dealing with. And books, because it's a book tag. I feel like this is the problem now that I'm filming at night. I'm just more kind of rambly and woo, because whole day's gone by, but let's just get into this. What am I doing? So, the first prompt is confusion. A lot of people think bisexuals are just confused. Spoiler alert, we're not. That sometimes sexuality can be a confusing thing when you are just figuring it out. Name a book character who is also going through a journey of figuring things out. So I feel like this is a prompt that could be taken many ways, but if we're looking at specifically sexuality, I've read a lot of books with bisexual characters, and sometimes those characters are very certain in their sexuality from the very beginning of the book, and sometimes they're kind of they kind of realize that they're not straight along the way. I feel like the first book that really came to mind with this would be like Mia Corvea from the Nevernight series. Oh look, it's right behind me. I know that people have problems with that series, and justified, but it kind of has a special place in my heart, and the main character does kind of realize she's not just attracted to men, so yeah. Is it a good place to start with a controversial series? I'm not sure, but it has a special place in my heart despite some of the issues people have brought up. If you don't know, it's a fantasy series following an assassin out for a revenge, essentially, and the main character's bi, so we love that. Coming out, that moment when you're ready to acknowledge your sexuality. Name a book that made you want to scream and gush the top of your lungs about it to everyone you know. I mean, there is this, which, look, I got a physical copy, which I feel like is my most talked about book on this channel at this point, but at the same time, it's not something that I necessarily want to gush about to anyone and everyone, just because of the fact it's, you know, a weird horror book, so it definitely doesn't appeal to everyone. So if we're going for something more like palatable to the masses, I guess, my new favorite romance is actually up here. I just finished this recently, Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I loved this and proceeded to post a couple things on Twitter that seemed to go completely ignored, but that I'd made like lists of why I love both of the main characters in this book. But basically this is just the most wholesome romance I've ever read, like the most healthy romance, while also having some really great banter. Like the emails they sent to each other, as soon as I got to that, like, it made my day. It was funny and beautiful, and I really love this. It's my new favorite romance, so it's just so wholesome and healthy, and they just support each other. And first crush, the first queer crush. Name a book with a character in it that totally made you swoon. I feel like I don't really swoon over book characters. I feel like even when I was a teenager, not particularly, maybe occasionally. So I don't really have one for this. The closest I can think of recently would maybe be like Geralt, the Witcher Geralt, so who was a man, so not a queer crush. Although, like, my favorite character of all time is a woman from comic books. So like Harley Quinn is great, but neither of them are characters that I would necessarily want to date. So take that as you will. Although like this couple is really wholesome, but like they can stay being a wholesome couple together. I don't know, yeah, I don't really swoon over book characters that much. Even like TV and movie characters, I feel like not anymore since I was a teenager. I don't know. Although I say that, and I have had the characters that I swoon over as an adult, like video game romances like Garrus, but yeah. Also like Tali, but you know, I couldn't romance her as a woman, so she was just my best friend. What am I up to? I feel like I'm not going in order. I've jumped all over the place. Where am I up to? Recognition. Unfortunately, bi-erasure is still a thing. Name a book that made you feel seen and valued, understood. I feel like I read a lot of books that I have related to on levels of not only sexuality, but I've read a lot of books with like anxiety representation that I saw myself in. And at first I thought I didn't really have any books that fit this. But then the one book that I can think of that I particularly loved because I related to it so much in terms of my own teenage experience, and not just in the terms of being a teenager realizing she was bisexual, but in terms of the fact of just like a lot of the friendship dynamics and everything in this book very much took me back to when I was a teenager, and just some of the stuff in it was like the most relatable book I've ever read, especially in terms of like my teen years. Even though again, it's one that has some problems, but also like they're teenagers, they're kids, so like it's expected that they're gonna say and do some dumb stuff. Anyway, it's a whole nother discussion we don't need to get into right now, but Leah on the Offbeat was the book that I really felt that way about, that was like, oh my gosh, this has taken me right back to being a teenager and being within that group of friends that I had. Yeah, and yeah, the main character's bi, and so there was also that. So, but yeah, the one thing that was particularly wrong with this book was that the main character tried to dictate what someone else could say about their own sexuality, essentially, and that was never questioned, so that's not great. But otherwise, yeah, there was just something about this book. 50-50, sexuality is fluid and so is bisexuality. Almost no one is 50-50. Name a book about which you're unsure whether you love or hate it. Your own not 50-50 opinion wise. These prompts alone are just giving me a lot of thoughts, but not stuff I want to get into necessarily on the internet. So, but in terms of the prompt for that, I feel like I don't tend to really have that experience with books where I don't know whether I love or hate it. It's definitely something I feel with movies. Like, I know Midsummer was one that I got to the end and was like, WTF did I just watch? I don't know how I feel about this. But I feel like with books, if I have mixed feelings about them, I'm very settled in knowing I have mixed feelings about them, so I don't love them or hate them. I know I have those mixed feelings, if that makes sense. Like, an example of that was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, which is also right above me up here, but I can't be bothered getting it down. Which I kind of, like, I enjoyed a lot of it. It was a fast read and I stayed up really late to finish it, but I also had a lot of problems with it, so that's definitely a book that I got to the end of and was like, I didn't love or hate this, I have such mixed feelings about it. And that's kind of where I tend to sit with books more so than being unsure whether I love or hate them, if that makes sense. And community. Finding a place in a community can be hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm too gay for the straight people and too straight for the gay people, but in the end, it's all about finding the right people in life that love you. Sexuality doesn't define you. Name a book with an amazing group of friends, community. This is something that I actually particularly love in books, so probably a lot. I particularly love solid friendship groups or families within books, which I feel like this is something I've mentioned quite recently in a video. I don't remember which one, where a number of books came up that had those. Maybe was it in my favorite books of last year? I'm not sure, I don't remember. But it is something I particularly love. Like, in terms of like family, I've talked a lot about the Hidden Legacy series and how I love that family, that they really kind of love and support each other, but I just love their dynamics and stuff. In terms of friendships, I know there's a lot that fit this because it's something that particularly stands out to me and I particularly love, but I feel like they're not in my brain right now. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Friendships, Sorkin Girls had some interesting friendship stuff going on. Which this is a case of I definitely prefer the movies because there were so many problems in these books, but like that 2017 It movie, that friendship like made that movie for me. I loved that. But yeah, honestly, a lot. A quality friendship group or family, like I love seeing just like these just wholesome, supportive relationships. It's something that really appeals to me in media. So, I mean, even like, friggin' going back to Sarah J Maas, the group from like the second book onwards in A Court of Thorns and Roses. I did not like A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I really enjoyed the second book. And part of that was it has a nice group of characters as well. Anyway, yeah, I think that's it for this tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because, for one, the nature of the type of tag it is, don't want to be exposing anyone any more than they're necessarily comfortable with. Rambling. That is the buy book tag, and I hope that you have a good day. I hate closing off videos. I never know how to do it. Grogu, do it for me. Say bye, everyone. Stay safe, stay educated, and Starzy out.